Is being alone actually making you smarter? A recent study found that people with higher IQs prefer to spend more time alone. And no, I'm not just saying this to make you feel better about having no plans this weekend. Here's something that might shock you. The same traits that make someone intelligent often make them terrible at socializing. But this isn't the feel-good video you're expecting. I'm about to show you the dark truth about why smart people choose solitude and why being a loner might be your secret weapon. 3 months ago, I decided to spend 30 days completely alone. No social media, no friends, no family gatherings, just me, myself, and I. What happened next completely changed how I view isolation. But before we dive deeper, let me clear something up. Being a loner isn't the same as being lonely. In fact, they're complete opposites. Loneliness is what you feel when you're surrounded by people but still feel disconnected. Being a loner? That's a choice, a powerful one. Let's talk about why some of the most successful people in history were loners. Newton, he was terrible at maintaining friendships. Nikola Tesla spent most of his time alone in his lab. Even Einstein said, "I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." But here's where it gets interesting. Your brain actually works differently when you're alone. When you're constantly around people, your brain is busy processing social signals. Someone's tone of voice, their facial expressions, what they might be thinking about you. It's exhausting. It's like running dozens of background apps on your phone. Your battery drains faster. Now, let me share something personal. Growing up, I always felt weird for wanting to be alone. My parents would force me to go to parties, telling me I needed to come out of my shell. But here's what they didn't understand, and what psychology now confirms. I wasn't in a shell. I was in my element. Let's break down the science behind this. When you're alone, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for complex thinking, becomes more active. It's like finally being able to hear yourself think after leaving a noisy restaurant. This is why writers don't write in crowded cafes, despite what Instagram would have you believe, and why programmers often work late at night when everyone else is asleep. But there's a catch. Being a loner isn't about being antisocial. It's about being selective with your social energy. Think of it like being an introvert on steroids. You're not avoiding people because you're scared of them. You're avoiding them because you've got better things to do with your mental energy. Here are the 5 types of healthy loners I've identified through research. 1. The creative loner. These people need solitude to create. They're the artists, writers, and inventors who disappear for days and emerge with something brilliant. Their alone time isn't empty. It's full of ideas, experiments, and breakthroughs. 2. The intellectual loner. These folks prefer deep conversations over small talk. They might skip the office party, but spend hours discussing philosophy with one person. They're not antisocial. They're selectively social. 3. The independent loner. These people have mastered the art of self-sufficiency. They don't need constant validation or company. They can enjoy a movie alone, eat at restaurants alone, and travel alone, and actually prefer it that way. 4. The productive loner. These individuals have realized they get more done when they're alone. They're not being antisocial. They're being efficient. They know that every social interaction comes with a cost, time that could be spent pursuing their goals. 5. The mindful loner. These people use solitude for self-development. They meditate, reflect, and work on personal growth. They understand that the relationship with yourself is the foundation for all other relationships. Now, let's talk about how to become a healthy loner, because there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. First, start small. Don't go from social butterfly to hermit overnight. Begin with what I call micro-solitudes, 30-minute periods where you're completely alone, no phone, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. Second, develop your inner world. The reason some people can't stand being alone is that they haven't built a rich inner life. Read books, learn new skills, develop hobbies that don't require others. Make yourself interesting company. Third, learn to distinguish between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a negative state. It's the feeling that something's missing. Solitude is a positive state. It's the feeling of being complete on your own. Fourth, create boundaries. Being a loner doesn't mean cutting off all human contact. It means being selective about when and how you socialize. Learn to say no to events that don't add value to your life. Fifth, use your alone time productively. Don't just sit there scrolling through social media. That's not solitude, that's distraction. Real solitude is active, not passive. But here's what most people get wrong about being a loner. They think it's permanent. It's not. You can be a loner for a season of your life when you need to focus on personal growth, career development, or creative projects. Then you can shift back to being more social when it serves you. I discovered this myself during my 30-day solitude experiment. The first week was uncomfortable. The second week was enlightening. By the third week, I was more productive than I'd ever been. And in the fourth week, something unexpected happened. I started missing meaningful connections, but not the social obligations I used to feel bound by. This taught me something crucial. Being a loner isn't about avoiding people. It's about understanding when solitude serves you and when it doesn't. The research backs this up. A study published in the Journal of Research and Personality found that people who can handle being alone tend to be more creative, more self-aware, and better at problem solving. They're not running from something, they're running towards something, their own potential. Think about it. Every major religious and philosophical tradition includes periods of solitude. Buddha found enlightenment alone under a tree. Jesus spent 40 days in the desert. Thoreau went to Walden Pond. They understood something we've forgotten in our hyper-connected world. Sometimes you need to disconnect to reconnect with yourself. So here's the truth about being a loner. It's not a flaw to fix, it's a trait to harness. In a world that's constantly pushing us to be more social, more connected, more out there, choosing solitude can be a radical act of self-care. Remember what I said at the beginning about smart people preferring to be alone? Well, now you know why. They're not avoiding life, they're living it on their own terms. If you're someone who enjoys being alone, who feels more energized after spending time by yourself, who does your best work in solitude, congratulations. You're not weird. You're not broken. You might just be ahead of the curve. Next time someone tells you to get out more, remember this. Some flowers bloom in the sun, others bloom in the shade. Know which one you are and own it. Want to learn more about the psychology of successful loners? Check out my next video about famous introverts who changed the world.